I'm Richard Wakeford, professor at Birmingham City University, and I led the session on the governance of land, looking at the impact of different government programs, federal, state and local, on delivering visions of that people would have about the best use of land in Nebraska. And we used a game concept that hasn't been used in the United States before. We called it Plainsopoly. It was like a gaming board. 4 or 5 people of different kinds represented the community around the table. The dice was thrown. A cowboy, as it happened, piece was moved along to the square, and then there was a dilemma. And the team had to work out what they would do with that dilemma. What was their conclusion when it came to a choice between agriculture and development, or a wind farm and its pylons, those sorts of things. So the tables then faced a series of dilemmas and then came up with a vision for their part of rural Nebraska. We had about 8 or 9 tables doing this, so there was a real amount of creativity going on in the room. So what did it tell us? It told us actually how collaboration with people with different, sometimes quite strong views around the table, just having those people around the table discussing the issue, brought in people who are at the extreme and started to produce a consensus around a way forward. And we felt that would be really valuable in taking hold of issues in rural communities, even up to, we thought that governments should use it, but I doubt whether ministers and secretaries of agriculture would find time to play the game. But we found that it would be a really useful way of helping to shape the future. The second thing was that it showed that despite the fact that we have a lot of people here at the conference who know about the issues for rural Nebraska, they're not really that familiar with the way in which tax regimes and regulatory regimes shape what happens to the land. So one of the things that we were trying to do was to see whether by changing the levels of tax or changing the degree of regulation, you could actually improve the outputs, the products of land, and generate more wealth for rural communities. The third thing was that even when we knew where those instruments were, regulation and economic instruments don't always incentivize the best outcomes. That's because people come at how they use their own piece of land in an unusual way. And certainly what we found was that people were taking decisions influenced by the tools that are in place at the moment that were not always going to be outcomes that were long-term outcomes, things that would be truly sustainable. So we came to the conclusion that the game could be really useful in quite a lot of strategic contexts in helping to shape where policies are, and not just in terms of the governance of land, but in any kind of place-based dilemma that a community might have. The second thing was that we concluded there's not really as much awareness as we thought there would be on the different rules and financial instruments that encourage or discourage the use of land as a resource. So it illustrated for us an important research priority that's really relevant to the future work of the Rural Future Institute. In short, our session, I think, represented a really creative and good start. The game itself proved to be really valuable as a research tool around the impact of government actions on land and how they might be fine-tuned. It also showed that there was really a lack of awareness of the impact of some of those governance systems. And if there was more awareness of that, it would be possible for communities to have a voice, for local governments to have a voice, for state governments to have a voice, to say the federal government or other organizations that are influencing the land, come on, adjust your policies a bit, because that research shows that we could get more from the plain states if we change the rules a bit.